Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Patty Blue Hayes. I thought today I would go over different ways that you can approach moving to Panama. There's a lot of logistics and there's a lot of different scenarios that people have. And I'm seeing a lot of posts in the Expat Facebook groups about, you know, where do I live? What do I bring? So I thought I would start by what my process was, and then I'll cover different scenarios and my recommendations. And these are just suggestions, obviously. Different people have different opinions, and what works for some people doesn't work for others. So anyway, I just thought I would share first my experience. So when I first moved to Panama, or when I was planning the move, I thought that I was going to be moving into a condo by the beach that I was going to be purchasing. And I just figured, all right, I'm not going to bring any furniture. I'm not really going to bring any, kitchen items because the condo was furnished. I did pack 2 pallets of just kind of like the creme de la creme of things that I enjoy having, and all my mom's paintings. And then the condo sale fell through because my house didn't sell in California. So then I was like without a place and like nowhere to land, really. And then an opportunity came up where I had accommodations in exchange for doing some copywriting, and just some like email writing, but basically just copywriting. So that was about 3 months, I think, my first 3 months, and that was in Gorgona. And then, because I didn't know, what I was gonna do, I got an apartment just kind of month to month, because I was just thrown into this uncertainty. But at the same time, I was also kind of realizing that the heat at the beach was just kind of oppressive for me. I just couldn't adjust to it. I couldn't sleep at night even with just the windows open. The humidity was just too much. I found it very draining, very exhausting, very depleting. So I was thinking about other areas of Panama. Around this time, the quarantine was happening for COVID, and I started house sitting in Coronado, and that was about like an 8-month house sit. So that gave me time, to just think about what I was going to do next. And what I did was go to Volcan for another house sitting opportunity. It was cooler in Volcan, and I kind of figured, okay, that's it. Volcan's going to be my home. I packed up my car with almost everything I had in my storage unit, and drove off to Volcan and spent I think like 10 weeks there. In that time, I decided it just wasn't the area for me, and so I wasn't going to get a rental there. I had to, make another plan. So I was kind of then like figuring out, all right, well then I know that mountains are going to be the area for me because I want the cooler temperatures. And Boquete was never on my list. I'd just gone there for like a day trip or something while I was in Volcan, but I never considered living in Boquete. So then that left El Valle to explore, Santa Fe in the mountains, And I'd already crossed off Altos del Maria because I realized that it was just too remote for me, and no access to, just a grocery store, a restaurant, or a variety of restaurants, because there is a restaurant up, the mountain there, but just to have like a town. There's no town up there. You have to drive down the mountain to get to Coronado or Chame, to find, grocery store or restaurants. So that's when I, explored El Valle a little bit. I think then I went to Santa Fe. Anyway, I made the decision that El Valle, I was going to give that a go. And I rented at the El Valle Suites de Anton. It's like an apartment hotel. I think there's 14 units. They're 1 bedroom. They're really big. They have an amazing pool on the property. It's spring fed, so it's kind of warm water. It's not hot, but it's nice and warm. And I knew that I did want to buy and own my home. So while I was renting, I was looking for property. If you've watched my channel, you've seen those videos where every other week I was like falling in love with another property, and then drama and stories were, happening. So I then rented a house, because the apartment hotel, like 2 families moved in that were really loud with like a bunch of kids and a bunch of dogs. And I was working online and it was just too distracting. So then I moved to a little 2-bedroom rental house, and that's where I lived until I could move into my house that took 8 months to renovate. Then I think it was when I was at my rental, the 2-bedroom, that I cleared out my storage unit. It was a storage unit in Gorgona that I can't pronounce the name of, but I'll leave a link or, the information of the name. And I think they have a smaller unit now in Coronado. And I think those units are all climate controlled. The one in Gorgona, they have some units that are not climate controlled and some that are. And my stuff was in a non-climate controlled for a while, and I switched it to climate controlled, which was just at the right time because it was starting to get kind of mildewy and moldy. So that was how I did the move. It was a little bit of things that were planned and then a little bit of things that were not planned. But it actually worked out really well that I didn't have a lot of belongings, because that would have just weighed me down. I think I probably would have packed more and brought more if I knew that I was, going to be coming to like a completely unfurnished, starting from scratch kind of situation. So I'm glad that I didn't bring more. I'm very happy with what I brought. No furniture, just clothes that were like cotton, linen blend, rayon, and just, things that were kind of sentimental. But I did pare down a huge amount of sentimental things. Some of those included beautiful art books that my mom had, but books don't do well in this climate. Unless you're living in air conditioning or run a dehumidifier most of the time in the house. So I have a dehumidifier in a closet and I run that 24/7. In the dry season, I don't have to run it as often, but in the rainy season, that thing is working hard. And I keep books in there, like the few books that I did bring, I'll keep them in there. So that is how I settled into Panama, and then I'll continue with another option. Okay, so let's talk about another option, which would be, this is the person who can make several trips to scout out Panama. And in that case, you really can have the best of both worlds, because you make as many trips as it takes for you to scout out the areas that you think you might be most interested in settling down. If you've made several trips and you haven't decided firmly on where to settle down, then I would recommend just finding one location and making that your starting point, renting, and keeping your things in storage in a storage unit nearby, and just keep the essential items with you. So that's easier to move. Let's say that you find a place that you like in Boquete, and then you decide you want to check out Volcan, which is just through the mountain pass. You keep your stuff in storage, and it's easy just to move your things in a vehicle or two. That way you just have a little bit more freedom. Most of the rentals come furnished. It might not be to your taste, it might not be super comfortable, but it's furnished, and it's a place to land and then explore from there and get a feel for the area. So that would be option 2 if you're a person who can make several trips and scout out where you want to settle in. Again, renting is important to do first. And a bit later, I'll talk about the Friendly Nations visa, which is now a requirement to purchase real estate. So I'll just give my thoughts on that. But these are my thoughts. I'm not a realtor, but this is maybe what I would do. Third option is you've made 1 or 2 brief visits and you want to move, but you just don't know where. So in that case, just pick your first location and start with a rental in that area and put your things in storage. So for all of these scenarios, my personal recommendation would be to bring as little as possible, because there's a lot that happens when you're moving internationally for personal growth and development. Unless you are fine with just trying to replicate, your same life that you have and just basically like packaging it all up and moving it and dropping it into another country, you can certainly try that. But there are going to be a lot of differences here in Panama, and in my opinion, it's worth challenging yourself to grow a little bit by doing those hard things of paring down, letting go of things. It's very freeing to do that. And I was someone who was attached to so many things. I mean, there was even like a pair of cosmetic scissors that I was sentimentally attached to because they were my mom's. And then after she died and I was flying somewhere, they got confiscated and I was in tears. I don't want to be, that person anymore. That's a lot of energetic weight that just keeps you anchored. And so for me, it was a really beautiful experience to go through the process of eliminating things, and a lot of things I could donate with purpose. There was some nice china that I had, and I put chocolates in the cups and made them festive with holiday napkins, and brought them to like a senior home or assisted living nursing home. So I would definitely recommend doing that. You can buy a lot of things. I mean, you can buy everything, in Panama. But I will say, people always recommend that you bring your own can opener. And I agree. Also, good kitchen knives. And if you have gardening tools, or if you have other, tools that you use, that is probably worth bringing. And maybe like cotton sheets. I brought some sheets and towels, and I brought my pillows just because I'm a creature of comfort, and you know, those things that I'm going to be sleeping on every night, I wanted them to be what I had that I really loved. You know, it can be challenging to find a pillow that works perfectly for you. So pare down, eliminate as much as you can, keep it light, which gives you a lot more flexibility when you're here in Panama. I would not recommend renting a place that you have not seen physically. So you can start with an Airbnb, you know, maybe do like a month in an Airbnb. A lot of Airbnb hosts like myself, we offer, you know, discounts for longer term stays. And even if a host doesn't have that posted, you can message them and ask them if they do. And in the rainy season, you can ask for more of a discount because, you know, it's a lot less people coming to visit. And I've done that before. You know, I've given more of a discount in rainy season to have someone stay. You can do your pre-research on rentals like houses or condos that you might be interested in living in. Okay, here comes some heavy rain. I hope you can hear me over the rain. So you can have some pre-research done. Depending on where you are, you might be, you know, working with a realtor. If you're in one of the larger cities or towns, it's probably best to work with a realtor, a licensed realtor, or broker. They call them brokers here. I guess realtor is like a trademarked term in the US. So, yeah, don't rent something sight unseen. Stay in an Airbnb and work with a broker on lining up some rentals that you can see and then go from there. I was just out in the garden, so I am a mess right now, but I'm editing the video that you're watching right now, and the Business Insider interview that I did was published. So some of you may be watching these videos from reading the interview, and cat's out of the bag. This is why I'm going all in on YouTube and self-publishing, because I haven't been able to find work in over a year. Been very discouraging, and it definitely takes a lot of energy to keep up the you know, the inspiration and the hope when applying for jobs. It's easier to generate it when I'm doing things for myself, and I love writing. That's been my first love. So if you're coming to Panama, if you're going to live in Panama, you'll notice that in the small neighborhoods, or small towns like mine, you have the guy that comes collecting metal, and the guy that sells fresh chickens, the guy that sells fish, the guy that comes around with shaved ice. And they all have their own little kind of sing-song sales pitch, right? The guy with the chicken is like, Blanca, 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 you know, gallina, gallina, muy bonita, sancocho, and then a bunch of other stuff. And the shaved ice guy is maracuya, fresa, raspao, raspao, raspao. And the metal collector, I can't quite make out what they're saying. I know it's like latas and baterías. And what was the other guy? The metal collector, the fishmonger. Oh, the fish guy is like Sierra, which I don't know what kind of fish that is. Anyway, point being, what I'm going to do right now is give you my little sales pitch in Spanish for the things that I offer. So, libros, 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 grande y pequeño. Entrenamiento, muy bueno. Suscribir, por favor, suscribir. Hospitalidad para ti, hospitalidad para ti. Thanks for subscribing. Working on my Spanish. The fourth option is for you truly adventurous, risk-taking people who move here without even visiting. Yes, I know people who have done this. I don't think I could even do that. And I do like to think that I'm not too risk averse. So yeah, there are people who just pick up and move. Obviously, the less stuff you have, the easier it's going to be to work your way around the country and find the area that's right for you. And give yourself some time, plenty of time. Rentals come furnished, you know, land in Panama City, get your cedulas, you know, worked out while you're in the city. Maybe, you know, don't go too far out of the city area. You know, I mean, maybe like Coronado, Gorgona, San Carlos. But you'll be going back and forth a little bit into the city to meet with attorneys and to get your visa, your residency visa. So yeah, in that case, pack super light. If you are gonna ship anything, again, get a storage unit. You could get one in Panama City or you can get one in Gorgona. That's the only one I know of that's between Panama City, but I'm sure there has to be a storage facility in Arahan, and there has to be one in David, maybe Santiago, and go from there. Don't buy any real estate, just keep renting. Make sure that you stay in areas for rainy and dry season so you get a really good feel, because they are so different. They really are very, very different. I am done with this rain. I'm so ready for summer. We had a little bit of sun this morning, but just more rain. And this is the end of November. We should be getting into our, you know, season change, but I have heard that because of El Nino, it's gonna rain into December. Okay, so let's talk about the Friendly Nations visa, where you have to have a real estate purchase. You're not gonna have that luxury of, you know, really like checking out an area for 6 months at a time. You may have visited once or twice, done some online research and decided like, okay, you know, we're gonna start out in Pedisi. So you would connect with a broker in Pedisi, and a licensed broker, someone that has, you know, a good reputation, and you can kind of get an idea of that from some of the Facebook groups. You'll see names being repeated with positive stories. If random, you know, people pop up, you know, maybe take that with a grain of salt and focus on the people who really have an established presence and multiple positive referrals. And, you know, you're gonna wanna get their advice on buying a place that is going to be best for resale should you decide that you want to sell. Because I think that visa, you don't have to hold on to the property forever. I think there's a period of 2 years that you need to own the property. So you might decide you want to sell anyway, and rent somewhere or move, you know, somewhere else in the country. So that purchase is going to be important to get something that is going to appeal to the market. So you want to find out from the broker what's going to be best for resale purposes. In some cases, that might be a condo in a development, or a townhouse in like Decameron. That's a big development. Buenaventura, I think it's called Buenaventura. So you're going to want to rely on the information that the broker gives you. And you can also ask in the Facebook groups of people who have had the Friendly Nations visa where they have to purchase a property. What has their experience been like, and what their recommendations are, because they have done it. I haven't. I got the Friendly Nations visa, thankfully, when it was a different requirement. It only required that you open a bank account with $5,000. I think there was like a real estate thing attached to it, but I was in contract to buy a condo. Anyway, I got my cedula. I'm here. Hopefully they don't kick me out for some kind of technicality. So if it is a scenario where you kind of have to buy something for, the visa purpose, it's probably a good idea to maybe get something in a community that has an HOA. And that way, that the electricity and the water is reliable, or you can at least confirm that with the broker. And a lot of developments will have generators. Condos, definitely, most will have generators. But the reliability of electricity and water can be spotty at different places in the country. So those are important questions to ask. And a benefit of buying in a development is that if you don't know a neighborhood, you don't know if there's, petty theft in that neighborhood. You don't know if there are, there's a party house next door, or if a neighbor, continuously burns piles and piles of debris, or, someone has 10 dogs that they bring to do training. And in a gated community, you're at least going to have, rules that people have to abide by in order to live there. And so there are some assurances in doing that. But again, that's where the information from talking with a broker is going to be really critical. It's definitely possible to buy property without a broker. I did, but I was here for a long time, and in my price point, because I was looking like ideally, under 225,000 in El Valle, which was really kind of a stretch. So I was looking at things that, were in like disrepair, or, just weird kind of properties. But typically a broker's gonna have, things that are livable. You can move in. I mean, they might have a few listings that are some fixers. But if you're pressed for time and need to buy a property, I would not risk it with, doing a fixer. Let's talk about buying a car. I really, really despise buying cars. Ever since I bought my first car, it was a 1989 Hyundai from the dealer. My brother came with me because, he's a good negotiator. But I mean, that experience was awful because I just cannot stand that smarmy, salesy crap that, I don't know, they all just seem to have. And then I think being female and not knowing a lot about vehicles and, cars, obviously, I just, feel at a disadvantage. So imagine me being here in Panama. I need to buy a car. Can't stand the thought of buying a car, so I put it off. But then the car rental was getting to be really pricey, and I just had to bite the bullet and, buy a car. I went through Mark Vargas, who introduced me to the guy who had the car for sale. And, Mark knew him, and, I met the guy when I saw the car, and he had like all the records. The car was impeccable. It's probably never been as clean as it was when, the former owner had it. I can't recall if I brought it to a mechanic, but you definitely want to do that. I might not have done that. I don't know. I can't remember. I wanted to just block it off. But I would recommend getting a mechanic to look at the car. You don't have to know the mechanic. You're not going to know a mechanic. Don't ask for a referral, from anybody in that car buying process. Just find an anonymous, mechanic. Maybe, a recommendation from Facebook. Because sometimes, people can work with people, and maybe, you just know how it is. There's like a lot of handshake deals or things. I hope you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, get a totally anonymous mechanic to look over the car. Even if you're going like to a used car dealer, I have heard that from a used car dealer, they'll give you like a 90-day warranty, which really isn't much, but sometimes there have been issues with odometers being tampered with. So you really just have to do your due diligence. Unless you're buying it from a reputable dealership, I don't have any experience doing that, so I don't have an opinion on that or, any advice. But I think for inventory, the city and the outskirts of the city are going to have the most options. I'm sure Santiago and David have options as well. But if you don't know if those are going to be areas that you want to explore, it might be worth it just to, get your car while you're in the city. You'll get it registered, it'll be in the city. And then when you settle down somewhere, then you can go about changing the location of your registration to the province where you are. I haven't done that yet. I could change my registration and, then just go get it, get my sticker renewed. I think it would be it wouldn't be Panama, it might be Chame, I think. But I haven't done that. I work with someone who does that for me, and then I get Uno Expressed the car sticker and registration. So good luck on buying a car. I just do not enjoy the car buying process. I would love one day to be able to go into a dealer. Like, I would like my next car to be a Mazda 5 4-wheel drive. I would love to be able to just go into a dealer and say, yes, I'd like that one in blue. Wrap it up, give me the keys, and I'll take it home. I think that wraps it up. If, as I'm editing, there's other information, I'll add it in. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.